Hey everybody, it's Mr. Silver here. In this next video, which is going to be for Lmms, I'm going to teach you how to change the volume of a specific instrument, change the pan of a specific instrument, add effects to a single instrument. Since this is Lmms, we do have ways to add effects to the master track. And then specifically, I'm going to help find you some options for reverb, EQ, compressions, etc. There's a specific EQ one that I'll show you real quick now. Equalizer, it's a parametric EQ that shows you visually what sound is there, and that's awesome. That's one thing that Lmms has that BandLab does not appear to. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so first things first, and I can show you this here. In Lmms, we're going to have each of our instruments has this little volume ticker that we can control. So let's look at that. So for instance, let's say I want to look at my drums and say I want to make my kick a little less loud. See, it's still there. Now it's a lot quieter. So I'm clicking here and I'm dragging up or down. Right? So that's how we change the volume. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change our pan. And that's the next thing to the right here. In Lmms, it's going to be right here. So let's say I wanted to put the hats on the left side. See, as I go further here, you start hearing more to the left. Let's say I want to put the clap to the right side. Now, I would never really pan most of these instruments this far to the side, but it's not a bad idea to pan them a little bit. The main things you want to keep in the center are your kicks, other really low things like basses, and then also your main lead vocalist usually, or whatever your solo instrument is. So that's how you pan. So using those things on the right. And notice again, you can do it out here. So if I wanted to do that with my instrument here, I could. All right, so that's volume and pan. Now I'm going to show you how to get effects. So if you click up here, oh wait, sorry, it's out of the frame. Right here we have our effects panel. So if you click that, it'll open up. Now, notice that from the beginning, it's just the master track. Now, real quick, what a master track is, a master track affects all of everything. It's the last thing that happens before it goes to your speakers or headphones. So any effect you put on the master track will happen last and will happen to everything. So in other words, if, for example, let's say I put some reverb on here, and I'm going to make it really damp, which just makes it sound really reverberant. It's going to affect all my instruments. See, it sounds like we're in like a locker room or something that has like puddles everywhere. So yeah. You don't usually want that. The only effect you might want to have on, and see, I can right click it to remove plugin. You may want to put like a maximizer. Let's see if they have one of those. I don't know if we want to use that. It sounds like it's going to be really distorted. We can try it anyway. Yeah, so a maximizer can sometimes, it's a type of compressor that you can use at the end. Let's also see a limiter is another option of something that can help to limit the amount of volume at the end. So let's try this one. So notice that you can turn them on or off using this. That light there, okay. So how do you add it to a specific channel? So now we're doing, so far, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I can add an effects track. So if I click this plus sign, see that's 1. Now, how do I send things to this track? Well, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. So let's take this instrument. Let's say I wanted to take this one. See how there's this effects section here? Oh, sorry, that's off the screen. So see, I open this one up and see how there's this effects section here. So what I can do is I can bring that up to 1. And so see how that says 1? So essentially anything I'm setting to 1, it'll apply to. So let's go to this one and let's add an effect. So I'm going to add reverb. And again, I'm going to turn up that damping just so it becomes really obvious. I'm going to mute the drums. I'm going to turn off just so you can see the difference. See how the sound ends right at the end before the reverb? No. It takes a little longer to come out. Here, if I lengthen the tail some more, it'll be even longer. You hear that? And for fun, let's put a delay on there. So notice there's only one chord, but you're hearing a second one because there's a delay on it. And even when I stopped it, another one came on. I'm going to turn that off. But notice how these other instruments aren't going there. Because if I click on this, see, it's not being sent there. But if I wanted to, boom. Now this one should get the effect too, because I just added it to it. Huh. Wait, it doesn't... Oh, because I muted the echo. That's when I heard it. All right, now you're getting the delay on it. Okay, so that's how you can add effects to individual tracks. Now, the last thing I really wanted to do is I wanted to make sure I walk you through EQ. So I'm actually going to turn off this reverb. And you know what? Let's do it for the kick. So I'm going to add a whole new FX channel. We're actually just going to pay attention to the drums now. So I'm going to just look at our drum track here. And I'm going to take my kick. I'm going to mute the other instruments. All right. And I'm going to add this to effects track 2. All right. Now on effects track 2, I'm going to put equalizer. Now this is the one that is a really nice EQ in here. I'm very pleased this exists. What's really cool about it is you can see the whole frequency spectrum for this kick. So it has a bunch of energy at about 20 hertz. It's also got a lot of energy. Most of its energy is actually at 100, so you can see it punching up there. And then there's this extra little section here. So if I really want to cut off this extra section, so that's that punch. So listen when that's back. That da 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 da. That part of the sound is what you're seeing here. That little thing popping up there. So if I get rid of that, notice how it just becomes the deeper portion that you hear through your walls, right? Kind of sounds like a heartbeat now. Which, by the way, if you're wondering why that's what a heart sounds like, it's because all the higher frequencies, like this one, get absorbed more easily as it passes through the body. Same thing why when you hear drums go through a wall, you tend to only hear the lower portions, because again, the higher portions get absorbed by the walls more easily. So this is what's called a low pass. It's only letting in sound that's below it. So as I move that 8 over it, that's happening. Similarly, this is a high pass, is 1. So 1 to isolate just that punchy sound over here. And you can see what it used to be in that purple and then what it is now in the blue. Now if I want to just cut into a section of it, I can do that. And so this is called sound shaping. And so this equalizer is really useful for taking certain sound out of a certain part of the spectrum. So for example, if I would go back to my EQ1 where I had those pianos going into, and I put equalizer on it. And by the way, I will say this is the thing that makes the biggest difference in music that sounds good and music that sounds great, is whether it's EQ'd well. So this is my synth. So it looks like we've got a lot of sound in the 100 hertz to 200 hertz region, like a lot. So I'm gonna try and cut into that some, because like the whole thing is I want to make room for the voice. So I know that I can move and can sing in a beat, and I can prove that I can be right there because there's room for me, and now I can, I don't know. But see what I mean? So since I freed up this part of the spectrum where maybe is where my lower register is, I made some room for myself. It is weird. I would have expected, maybe I played those chords really low, but I would have expected there to be more sound up higher up in there. Yeah. So that is just to cover the basics, everything we did. We saw how to add effects to a single instrument, also to multiple instruments. We saw how to change the volume, the pan. We saw how to add effects to the master track. And then finally, I showed you how to, well, I specifically showed you EQ, I showed you equalizer. And in terms of reverb and compression, you're going to want to pick out ones that you like. I personally have not found any that I'm particularly crazy about in here. If I'm not mistaken, and I'll look into this more for you, I think we can still add more of these effects from the outside. I don't think they have to be just these ones that they have, much like how we add other instruments. So imagine it's probably possible to add in, oh, that's cool. Even on an instrument in Vestige or something, you can add these. So if you want to search for a type of effect, you just search here. And that's how I found like equalizers. I typed equalizer and there it was. All right, so that's the end of this lesson. I hope you have a nice one.